Anthony Davis. We're going to talk about him in today's video and the recent report, which is frankly pretty obvious. I mean, we've been talking about it a good bit here on the Basketball Bulletin, that he may not have as much potential trade value as you would imagine he would have as a player of his caliber, of his name recognition, etc. But again, it's frankly pretty obvious for a number of reasons. We're going to talk about that in today's video, which, by the way, I'm sorry if it feels like we're beating a dead horse. They just keep on giving us new Anthony Davis information, so we got to kind of jump on it when it comes out. Also, no, we don't make this stuff up. I had a comment the other day where somebody was like, you guys just make this stuff up and ignore what organizations say, this and that. No, we don't. We just typically are reacting to some of the most reputable people in the industry, people with source information most of the time that have the ability to talk to these organizations and then put out there that information that they're hearing. And that's mostly what we talk about in today's video. No different. So and if it's Anthony Davis every day, it is what it is. I don't know what to say. But we do also have some stuff on the Kings and Demar Derozan, which we'll talk about as well. So I hope you guys enjoy. Let me know in the comments down below. What do you think his trade value will be? Also, it's Thanksgiving week. If you celebrate, let me know what your plans are. You're going to go fly out the family. Trevor's actually doing just that, which I don't mind, man. Anytime he wants to take a break, the man deserves it. He works so hard, but he'll still be around, of course. I don't know if we're doing anything with the move and all that stuff. We've been hosting lately. I don't think we're going to. I hope we don't. But I want to go to somebody else's house. But limited your plans are overall. Make sure you subscribe here to the Basketball Bulletin. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, Anthony Davis, the Dallas Mavericks are reportedly facing a conundrum when it comes to potentially trading star big man Anthony Davis. And during Monday's episode of the Hoop Collective, ESPN's Tim Bontemps explained that Davis's trade value isn't as high as many would expect for a player of his caliber. And like I said, this is something we've been saying on the channel for a while. It's frankly no surprise. This is standard. Like he's got a lot of things that are concerns. And you can say that I understand how good of a player Anthony Davis is, right? Like just last year, who's been talked about as being a top 10 player. His final game with the Lakers was a 40-20 game. Like it feels like we're so far removed from that because, I mean, it's been nearly a year, but it feels like we're so far removed from that because he's been in and out constantly, mostly out, constantly dealing with injuries for the Dallas Mavericks, came in out of shape because of the surgery and just he wasn't, dieting, I guess, during that as well. But anyway, came in out of shape and all that stuff and just hasn't looked like himself, right? And so you have that obviously context laid out there, but he's 32. He's got a couple years left on his deal. He's got a player option. He's dealing with injuries. Teams want to see him go out there and be healthy for a prolonged period of time. But then I've pondered the idea that if that happens, are you maybe just due for another injury, which really sucks to think about, sucks to say, but it could be the reality, right? Like there's a lot of different factors here. And then also if you're trading for Anthony Davis, what is the end goal here? Is he going to, again, because he's going to want another contract most likely after this. I don't expect him to be done. Are you going to extend him out beyond 35 years old? What does that number look like? Is that a max salary, right? Because I don't know. That's tough. That's really tricky. Does he have to take the KD that KD just took where it's like, 40 instead of, I guess at that point, 60 plus, which, I mean, shoot, my God, I wouldn't be mad at making $40 million, but I'm not them, right? Anyway, does he have to do something like that? There's so many different variables with AD, his age, his injury history, the contract, like where he's at, right? And I think he can still be really good and really effective for a number of years, but these are things that you have to ask in terms of questions if you're an organization. And like I was saying, what's your end goal? Are you trying to win a championship? Or are you just trying to be a fun team? Are you trying to be just a team that gets fans butts in seats, that can maybe be a second round exit? Like there's so many different variables at play here, right? Anyway, so Tim said the idea of trading Anthony Davis is everyone trained to think, well, you're going to get 3 firsts, 2 swaps. You're going to get 2 young players. They're going to get all this stuff. I don't want to say that it's not going to happen, but you talk to people in the league, there's not a lot of teams that are lining up to take on a 35-year-old Anthony Davis making $63 million, and you have to assume he's going to pick up that deal, the option in the deal. Yeah, so again, he's got a couple years, and he's got a player option in his year 35 season. That's kind of tough. that's kind of tough. And I still think he'll be really good at 35 in his year 35 season. I still think he'll be really good, but you'd have to imagine the injury stuff may get worse as he gets older. That's standard, right? I don't really know. And that's where, like I said, there's a lot of different factors with this. We're going to talk more about this, but we also have to pay a couple of bills here. So we'll be right back in just a moment, everyone. Don't go anywhere.
Ever hear the Sleeper app? Here's a little secret. It's more than just a platform for season-long fantasy leagues. This year, millions of users enjoyed playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but the app offers so much more. Live stats, real-time updates, and visualizations on all stats. A news feed, this is so important for me. You can get lightning-fast updates on your favorite players and teams. A real-time chat to allow you to engage with other users about individual plays and performances during the NFL and NBA seasons. So download the #1 sports app today. Experience it for yourself. When you use promo code Bulletin, you get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. And by the way, they do have a phenomenal promo going on right now as well. Free $20 entry. Go check that out. No deposit required. $20 entry for free. Go check them out. Use the link in the description down below, and that promo code is Bulletin.
Also, some information out there about the Kings potentially being interested in Anthony Davis. I mean, I'm getting a phone call here. My bad. That would be the most Kings thing to do. He would actually be a good player there if they were able to put him alongside Sabonis or something like that. But I mean, that fun team window, because I didn't want to say contention window, would be extremely short. But again, the Kings are in this weird spot anyway, so I don't think it makes a lot of sense, but they're in this weird spot where they're trying to get off of several players. Like I mentioned earlier, Demar Derozan is somebody that there's interest in, but they mostly want to get rid of everybody. That could be Russ, that could be anybody, even Keon Ellis, who is probably their best asset in terms of trade, not in terms of talent, but in terms of trade value relative to income as well, even though he's due for a new contract. Anyway, Nick Clifford, Keegan Murray, those are two guys they want to hold on to, understandably. They just gave Murray a new deal. Clifford, I believe, is a rookie, right? So they want to hold on to those guys. But other than that, mostly everyone else is on the table. We talked a lot about that yesterday in the video, so make sure you check it out. And when I saw this, I couldn't help but laugh. The Clippers, my voice cracked. Clippers are showing interest in DeMar DeRozan, per Sam Amick. Yeah. Of all the teams that don't need to be interested in the DeMar DeRozan is the Clippers. Oh my God. So here's the deal. I want to just say, like, I know we have a lot of Laker fans here, and they will never, ever say anything nice about the Clippers, and I understand it. I do. I will say, I actually really enjoy late career stint Harden. I think he's been great for the Clippers. He's definitely been, is it a hot take to say I think he's been the face of that organization since he's been there? Maybe not. Obviously, Kawhi is who he is, right? I don't have any problems with Kawhi, but I think that Harden's availability, he's a large part of what they do in terms of like on the court and all that stuff. And now they frankly have not had a good season, obviously. But I want to give him a little bit of credit. I think Harden's been really good before, obviously, we get to the playoffs where we know how things could potentially go. It's a little bit of a sneak diss, I'll admit, but I don't really have faith in playoff Harden. Okay. So DeMar DeRozan, a 36-year-old who league sources say has some interest from the Clippers, has a partial guarantee on his deal for the next season, approximately $10 million of his $25.7. Malik Monk, who is part of the Kuminga trade talks with Golden State in the summer that are likely to be revisited, has a combined $41 million on his deal in the next 2 seasons. The list goes on from there, with 4-year guard Ellis widely seen as the most coveted Kings player among rival teams. So I can understand the value in terms of getting DeMar DeRozan. This is where I was going to go. If he is willing to take a lesser bench role, I think he could be a really good piece for the Kings. But I don't know if they're able to talk him into that. Frankly, with how they're playing, I mean, he could come in and say, yeah, no, I'm not coming off the bench because what the hell are these other guys doing, right? Kawhi's in and out. Like, I think Kawhi's about to come back too, but he's in and out. Like, why would I come off the bench for? But I think that for him, if he's on any type of team with serious aspirations, hey, Trevor, you watching? He could plant his tree. I'm not going to keep going. Any team that has serious goals this season, right? He could be a player that I think could be really good for them. Even though he has his deficiencies and stuff, I think he's a guy that in a smaller role can still get you 10 to 12 points easily and just come in as a microwave guy off the bench and perform well in that role. And so he could be good for them if they were to slot him in that, or any other team, like I said, even OKC, for example. They don't need it, but if they wanted to, right? Another thing with him is that salary. He lines up with their timeline. Frankly, his age lines up with their age. So he's going the wrong way, man. They need to get younger, but it is what it is. He lines up with them, so I can understand that overall. It makes a lot of sense with those specific things in mind. But I would mostly not be interested in trading for Demar if I was them. And that's not to say Demar is a bad player. In terms of Monk, we talked a lot about this. I'm not really going to elaborate on the Kings piece of it all, like in terms of like their salaries and stuff. Like I said, Ellis is, from salary, return on investment, all that stuff, the best asset that they have, in my opinion. I don't know if Golden State should be interested in Monk anymore. Kuminga's fallen back down to earth after a very hot start to the season. Golden State has played a tough schedule filled with a lot of games. That's not particularly kind for those older players, and I expect them to rebound later and their stretch to come back, their record to come back up later in the season when they have a bit of an easier stretch, play more home games, things like that. But I don't know if they should be particularly interested in that. And then again, Monk, the problem with him is the salary, right? He brings up the salary here. Monk has a combined $41 million on his deal, including a player option. I just don't know if teams really want to pay that. You know, that's a lot of money for the next 2 seasons. That's a lot of money, right? So let me know what you guys think. And if you want to know more about the Kings thing, where we elaborate on that, we have a whole video where we cover all of that, Trevor and I do. So make sure you check it out. It should be on the screen right now, and we'll see you guys over there.